faceoff. Shoots it deflected right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Tendy Talk, presented by the BLPA Podcast Network. This week I chat with Bantam goaltender Shane Phillips of South Carolina. In this episode, Shane and I talk about youth hockey during the pandemic, growing up and playing hockey in the Southeast, and how he broke his back during COVID. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, you may notice my background looks a little bit different. We're doing some updates and renovations to the house right now, and that includes fresh paint on the walls. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Shane. So, Shane, hey, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
I apologize for being a few minutes late and having an ugly background. We decided to put our house on the market, so now I got all kinds of fun stuff to to take care of in between work and everything. So, how are things going on your end?
Well, right now the season's over. We're not really doing much, but we just finished up our season for the high school hockey state championship. We got second, unfortunately, but other than that, right now, just working on a bunch of off ice and trying to get stuff ready for next season. That's
awesome. So more importantly, school, how's that going for you?
Right now, I take 4 classes. 3 of my classes I'm doing good with 90s and stuff, and then 1 class math. I can't seem to do so good in that one.
Everybody has that one class they struggle with. I've got 2 kids, 14-year-old daughter. My son's about to turn 13, and they each have that one class that they struggle. And I had the same thing. So with COVID this year, have you been going in person? Has it been a hybrid? How's that worked out for you?
We were doing hybrid, going like back and forth between days and stuff. But then eventually they lifted the thing and they ruled against it. They said, all right, so you're all going to come back to class full time. So we've been going in for a solid amount of time now, full time with everybody. And
I'm going to guess you like being home, but you probably appreciate being in school full time, don't you?
Oh yeah, it definitely helps a lot, especially since I've got ADHD. It helps being able to go in person for school.
Find me
a lot with that in-person learning.
Find me a goalie who doesn't have ADHD, and I'll tell you they're not a goalie.
Yeah.
Seems like the only time we can focus and pay attention is when we're on the ice tracking the puck.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. Definitely tracking the puck. That's one thing that I'd say is the only thing I'm really good at.
Yeah. So for those listening, where exactly do you live?
I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina right now.
Okay.
Moved up from Daytona Beach, Florida. Played hockey down there for a bit. Really, really isolated. We only had like 1 rink around there.
Yeah.
There wasn't much hockey opportunity down there. And up here, we've got 2 rinks sort of close. We're a bit closer to like the junior Canes, but it's not much.
We do
what we got.
When I was in college, there was a kid from Tampa Bay, and he was a goalie as well. And he said the same thing. There's not much hockey down there, but at least the hockey that is down there is pretty passionate. So how does a kid from Florida get hooked on hockey?
Well, I don't really know the exact reason how I got hooked on hockey. I think I just liked it.
Yeah.
And I saw like a video about hockey or something. I was like, hey, I want to try that. So I went and I talked to my parents about it, and I was like, hey, can we play hockey? And I had a little brother. So he started getting into hockey too with me, and we just took it off from there.
That's awesome. So mom and dad, probably like most folks down in Florida, don't know too much about hockey, so they unknowingly said yes to one of the most expensive sports out there. What made you want to put the pads on, though?
Oh, well, it happens with just about every goalie. And we were at a house league one time, and we didn't have a goalie, and they were like, does anybody want to play goalie? And I was like, you know what, sure, I'll try it. And so I went, threw on the pads, and after that first save, I absolutely loved it. It was so enjoyable. It was a great moment to be in. And then now I've been playing goalie for 6 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's funny you say, you made that first save, because the USA Hockey was a 51-30 initiative for having 51% of pro goalies American-born by 2030. They say catch a puck, catch the bug, and that's exactly how it worked for you.
Yeah.
Again, what was mom and dad's reaction when they realized, we got a goalie on our hands?
Well, when we first got into hockey, I mean, I started off as a player. It wasn't too bad. So did my brother. We were both skaters. And then after that goalie time, they sat there, and I'm pretty sure for a bit they were like really happy that I was playing goalie, and then they started figuring out that it cost too much, and they were weren't so happy about that.
Not just the cost, but every goalie parent I talk to, including my own, they say, the cost of the equipment's one thing. It's watching the games is totally different. When your kid's the last line of defense, there's a little different kind of stress and anxiety for mom and dad sitting there in the stands, listening to other parents and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. My mom, she's crazy at hockey games. She's always really anxious, always jumping up and down. Anytime I make a save, always banging on the boards. I love the support. It's like sometimes it gets a bit in my head. I'm like, all right, mom, let's tone it down a bit. But I mean, I understand where she's coming from. She wants me to succeed. She wants me to do well, and I'm not there, and I'm trying to do my best for that. So
yeah, absolutely. As supportive as goalie dads are, nothing beats a goalie mom. They're the most supportive people in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're completely different.
I think if you ask my mom today, she still thinks I have a shot at the NHL. She's got an unrealistic view of my talents.
Yeah, mom's the same way.
So, you're a Bantam this year, correct?
Yeah, I'm moving up into 16U for next year. I just finished up my Bantam year.
Okay, so this season and the end of last season was not normal by any means. How did that work out for you? What were practices like early on in the season, or, were rinks even open by you guys?
Yeah, actually we started our season off late for our travel team, but we were able to get in our practices. We got a solid amount of games in. We still traveled to places. We went to Kentucky, we went down to Florida, we were still able to go places, and we still had our games. We still had our Kaha playoffs, and it really not much changed. And then about halfway through, we had to start wearing masks, and that one wasn't really too fun, but other than that, we were able to have a good season.
At least for goalies, that CCM game on mask isn't terrible from a breathing aspect, because it didn't feel like you had a mask on, but I feel it really restricts my vision down low. I put mine down like it's like a bit lower. Okay.
I mean, it still covers my nose. It still covers my mouth and stuff. It sometimes obstructs my view if it's like right below me. But I mean, other than that, it's fine. I mean, you look cool in it because it's like, you're all blacked out. You can only see your eyes.
I was able to adjust pretty quickly and get used to it, because it's just tilting the head a little bit further. And it's funny you say you look cool. My mom and dad were watching a Blackhawks game a few weeks back, and Malcolm Subban was in the net. And my mom saying to my dad, she's like, I don't like his mask. And he goes, what do you mean? She's like, there's just something about it. It looks like he's wearing a mask underneath there. And I know they don't have to. And my dad turns to my mom and she goes, Malcolm is a black fella. He was trying to figure out the nicest way to say it without sounding, ridiculous in these days. But he put that one out to my mom. She goes, oh, that explains it. And she goes, I suppose the mask isn't too bad then. And she just thought he had like one of those game on masks or something going on. It's like, no, Ma.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I know up here in Minnesota, I mean, our rink's closed for a while. We got to wear masks when we skate. But for a while for practices, they were only allowing a certain number of players on the ice at a time. Did they have any of those restrictions down by you guys for practice or anything?
For our practices, it was only just our team was able to go, but for like stick and pucks and stuff, yeah, there's only a certain amount of people that you can have, only a certain amount of people in the locker rooms. You'd have to wear masks on stick and pucks. Only a certain amount of goalies could go.
Yeah.
And a certain amount of players too.
So they're at least letting you use locker rooms too, because still here, we got to get ready out in the lobby or right around the rink. They don't want us in the locker rooms. And it's like, I've joked with some of the guys. I said, if we can put our hands in our gloves and not die, we're not going to catch anything at the rink. When we leave, that's a different story. But in the rink, whatever funk is grown in our hockey bag is going to kill anything.
Yeah, that's for sure. You're
Yeah.
stinky.
Yeah. So, you mentioned traveling to different states, Florida and, some of those other ones where there really weren't restrictions, if any, throughout, which made it easier. I know I got a grade school classmate who she lives down south and her son plays, and they did a lot of traveling to those states that were open. It sounds like you guys did the same to get those games in.
Yeah, we didn't really have many restrictions up in those other places. Just you have to wear a mask during the games, and you have to wear a mask obviously when you go out to eat. They still allowed it. They obviously cleaned the benches and stuff, but that was about it. I say we got really lucky. Yeah,
absolutely. Because like I said, up here, they shut the rinks down pretty much over the summer. That we came back, and then around Christmas time they shut them down again. So it was a scramble to get the youth and high school seasons in up here in Minnesota. They pushed everything back. They still had the state high school hockey tournament, but I think it was parents only in the stands, not the full capacity at the XL Energy Center is normal. And even the video coverage of it on TV, usually they had the camera guys down on the ice when they were doing player introductions to see the haircuts, and they didn't allow that this time around. It was everything from afar, which, you get it.
Right.
So you're moving up next year. You mentioned the high school hockey season. In South Carolina, do they have traditional high school hockey, or is it still more with your association?
Yeah, we have, I think it's 7 teams in our league. And so you play the league games. We didn't have any extra tournaments, but you do go to the state playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the winner of that does actually get to go to nationals. So we still have that going on, which is really cool.
Okay. So did you play on the high school team too then this year, or is that next year for you?
No, I played on the high school team this year as a freshman.
Did you get a lot of playing time as a freshman?
Yeah, being the other goalie, he was a senior. We split just about most of the games. And then about halfway through the season, I broke my back, so I wasn't able to really play many games there. But I mean, we still were able to split games, and I got a good amount of playing time. Only lost 1 game, got like 3 or 4 shutouts. And
you broke your back. How did that happen?
Funny story. I was out in a field with my buddies, and I got on my friend's shoulders, and one of my friends threw a football at me, and I went to catch it, and the guy underneath me slipped, and he landed right on top of me and broke 4 of my lumbar spine.
How's that rehab gone for you?
So about a week through it, I got COVID, so I had to sit in my bed for about 2 weeks, and it healed surprisingly in 5 weeks. And I got right back out on the ice after I was cleared and played my first game, got a shutout for high school, and then went over to the travel and got a win. Recovery's been great. I'm fully recovered now.
So would you say COVID maybe actually helped you because it kept you sitting still?
Oh yeah, it definitely did. All I did was sit for 2 straight weeks. All I did was lay in my bed. My back was like, you know what, we'll heal now. We've got the time.
Yep. So, you're playing on the high school team and the travel team. How is it juggling those 2 schedules as well as school? You got homework to do and study for.
Yeah. Well, the high school team, we had games only on Fridays, and we didn't have many practices. Mm-hmm. So none of the practices interfered with travel, and the games normally didn't interfere. If we had a tournament or something on Friday, we'd juggle between, are we going to go, or are we going to go do high school hockey? Mm-hmm. So that happened, but otherwise it wasn't much of an interference at all.
Were the coaches of the 2 teams pretty understanding of, juggling those decisions?
Not at all. Actually, the travel team was not understanding at all. The coaches, we had 4 kids on, and they did not at all. The coaches did not like us at all because we played on high school hockey, because they thought, they're out here skipping turns because they want to go do this, they want to do that. They didn't like us. But the other high school coach, he was completely understanding. He didn't really care what we did as long as we went out and played.
Mm-hmm. I've only lived, in the northern climate where, even in Illinois, high school hockey was still a bit of a thing. So, um, we tended to go towards high school hockey rather than travel when we got to that level, unless we were playing AAA, for like the Chicago Young Americans or Team Illinois. Um, would you say travel hockey at that age level is kind of the route to go for the more talented players, or is high school still the way to go down there in South
I'd
Carolina?
say down here in the Carolinas, if like kids are like AA and AAA and are playing on like actual AA and AAA teams, it's good to stay there with our but I prefer high school hockey more because it's a lot more fun, and it's cheaper than travel hockey, and you
Yep.
still get to go to nationals. But like the competition, it's mediocre. It's okay. It's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like if you're like a skilled AAA player or something, and you want to still play high school hockey, then it's cool to come down and like play.
Okay.
It doesn't interfere much. It's nice.
So you're a freshman this year. Next year you'll be a sophomore, and the senior will be gone. So ideally, the net should be yours. What are your long-term plans? Are you hoping to go the junior route? Are you looking college? Have you even looked that far ahead?
I mean, I've obviously briefly thought about it, but as of right now, I'm not too concerned. I would like to go play college. I mean, anywhere that like wants me to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a junior team wants me to play, I'll think about giving it a shot. I want to go to Notre Dame to play college hockey there. It's still extremely hard to get into.
Yep.
Just like D1 hockey would be a lot of fun to play in.
Got to have good grades to get into Notre Dame for sure. I did spend a weekend at Notre Dame. We did a little partying. Saw a couple people walking across the quad in togas, and we'll just leave the story there. So I grew up about maybe 2 hours from Notre Dame. So in our neighborhood, in fact, the league we were in for football, we played Joliet Catholic, where Rudy went to school. So that was kind of the area I grew up in. A lot of people said there's only two teams we watch in this house: Chicago Bears and Notre Dame football. So that was that. In fact, I had a uncle who has since passed, but he was very much a Notre Dame guy. And if you called him during Notre Dame football, he wouldn't answer the phone, but he would call you after the game and yell at you for calling during the game.
It's commitment right there.
Yeah, it was commitment. And then one of his grandkids actually got married on a Sunday that Notre Dame was playing. This is after my uncle had passed, and everybody was looking at him going, "What are you thinking? Like, you have to honor your grandfather in some way, but instead you have your wedding on the day of Notre Dame football." And it's like, I know. It was the only day we could get the venues. They got a beautiful, beautiful rink down there, though. That's for sure. So we're moving into the off season for you. I know up here in Illinois, and spring hockey, summer hockey is a pretty, common thing. Are you playing spring, summer hockey? Do you play other sports to, kind of hone some of those other skills and muscles, or, how do you spend those off seasons?
So for this off season, I'm like doing my own workouts with the Team Builder app and Goalie coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm figuring out like workouts and stuff to do that. In July, I'm going to a goalie camp in Montana.
Okay.
The Whitefish goalie camp. Go there and do that just to get myself better for next season. But other than that, no like travel hockey over the summer or spring. No games. But if anything gets added tournament wise, then yeah.
Okay, so a lot of pickup hockey whenever it's available at the local rinks to, and sometimes that is great for development because you can focus on individual skills and it not impact your stats per se. If they score a goal, fine, but did I do this right? I did that a lot at those pickup skates, where it's okay, today I'm going to work on my push it across. If it's a 2-on-0, I don't want to stack the pads. I want to come across in the butterfly, and I would just practice that every time. If they beat me, they beat me. But by the time the season comes around, you're going to be better at it. I think you froze on me, bud. Oh no. Hi. All right. I had a little issue with my internet there. I apologize. Can you hear me, bud?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my
Trying to get you
internet
back.
cut out on me. I have a feeling my son is playing video games again. So I apologize there. I'll give you a minute to get back on. There you are.
All right, we're back now.
Yeah, we're back after my internet cutting out, so that's all right. So as you've progressed through hockey, you said you've been playing for a couple of years. You started out in Florida, now you're down in South Carolina. There's not many goalie coaches down that way. So, in season, what are you doing to practice the craft? Is it a little bit like when I was playing where teams just didn't have goalie coaches and you just had to do the power skating? Or coaches letting you go off on your own during those team skating drills and focus on the position? Or, how's that worked out for you?
Yeah, so there isn't many goalie coaches. I haven't had like an actual private goalie coach throughout like my goaltending career, but most of the times during practices, they'll just tell me, hey, just go out there and stop pucks. So I'll work on my own stuff. I'll work on my own positioning. I've been like self-teaching myself, watching videos from goalie coaches and stuff, like trying to be better working on individual stuff.
Yep. Well, and that's really how it was back when I was growing up. You might go to a goalie clinic in the summertime, but teams didn't have goalie coaches either. So it was just watch the NHL games, watch other goalies that you're playing against, and try and emulate them per se. But I would say for you, you got a little bit of an advantage I didn't have, in that you have the internet. So what are some of the resources you've leaned on to pick up some of those skills?
Well, throughout like when I was first starting out playing goalie, the NHL, I'd watch my favorite goalie, Lundqvist. I'd watch how he'd play.
Yep.
And I'd try to like imitate his style. And then now that I've grown older, I'm using there's YouTube videos, there's accounts on Instagram that I'll follow. I'll work with goalie coaches. I'll look at their videos and I'll figure all that stuff out. And I'll remember it when I go to practice. I'll sit there and I'll make sure I do it.
I have to imagine then you've come across the in-goal Instagram accounts and, their social media and their website. Have you watched any of their pro reads or signed up to watch their pro reads, which are fantastic?
I've heard of In-Goal Mag. I think I follow them. I'm not quite sure yet, but I mean, I've heard you talking about them before on other podcasts, and I was like, hey, I should probably give this a listen to and try to subscribe to their things.
Yeah, I have a feeling you would greatly appreciate their pro reads. Essentially what they do is they sit down with pro goalies and they go over film of, different situations that they were in, and they get their insight of, what were they thinking in that situation? What were they looking at? What were they anticipating? And I think back to when I was your age, how would that have changed my game and elevate my game? It's crazy to think. At your age, it's not too common that I think, other goalies on the same team really help each other out. But have you worked with your goalie partners at all, helping each other out, saying, hey, I noticed this in your game, or, how are you doing that over there? Does that happen for you at all?
Yeah. So for the high school team, the other senior goalie, I mean, we both help each other out. We've got a solid friendship. But with my travel team through both years of 14U, it's been pretty like competitive between each other, and we're always trying to put each other one step above the other and stuff. And it's like, we're both like putting each other down and stuff. I mean, it hasn't been great, but we're just trying to lead our team to wins.
It's tough to find that fine line of, we're friends, but I want to be better than you. I want to be the one in the net. I'm going to say something that some might find probably controversial, but I think every goalie, when they're not playing, they want the team to win the game. but they don't want it to be a shutout. They don't
Every
want their
time,
goalie.
man, it happens with me a lot. But for the high school hockey team, definitely not. I want to watch them succeed and stuff. It's great, but
Yep.
for my travel teams, when the coach goes, he nods at the other kid, and I sit there on the bench. I'm thinking, I'm opening up that door, and I'm like, when's he gonna skate through here getting pulled? I mean, I really want to go out there.
Well, I never felt like, oh, I want them to get pulled. It was like, hey, I want the team to win, but I don't want it to be a
It's
shutout.
always that too.
Yeah.
Because I'll sit there and I'll feel guilty. I'll be like, man, I probably shouldn't be trying to like put him down now. And I'll be there and I'll be like, he'll come back to the bench after a period and I'll tell him what he's done right. And I'll like keep on trying to encourage him to go so that way we can get that win.
Yeah, there were very few of my goalie partners where I wanted the barn burner every time they were in the game. You know, I want us to win, but it can be like a 10-9 game.
Right.
But you know, for the most part, I got along really well with all of my goalie partners, so it was tough.
Yeah, especially being like when you're a lot younger, you know, you're not as mature and you sit there and you're like, oh man, I just want to play. I don't really like this kid anymore. And then as you start to mature in age, you start thinking more about the team and less about yourself. And it really helps out how you play goalie a lot.
It does. And when I was coaching at the high school level, I always talked to the, you know, backup goalie for a given game. And it was, you know, today, I don't want you just to open and close the door. This is what I want you to watch in our goaltender. Or I want you to focus on this on the opposing goalie. Tell me what you pick up on them. So I tried to make it a learning experience, so that it wasn't that they were not playing that game. It was, what were they learning that game? Sometimes when you treat a game that way, it changes your mindset of, okay, it's not just I'm not playing today. It's not my turn to play. What can I learn today?
Right.
You know. So you reached out, I think it was you and your dad reached out to me to say, you know, you followed the advice at the end of the podcast saying, hey, I know somebody. How did you guys come across the podcast? And I understand you listened to it on your way to some of these tournaments and games when you're in the car for a while.
So it was my stepdad, actually. He was listening to it. He was trying to find podcasts for me to listen to, and he came across, hey, look at this. This is a Tendy Talk. Why don't we listen to some of these podcasts? And I listened to them, and I was like, you know, this stuff's, it's kind of nice. It's good knowledge to know, hearing, listening to other goalies, like listening to Kane Van Gate was cool about him being in the movie. And then obviously Eddie Belfour, that's just an NHL legend. Being able to know that you've talked to these guys and given them great advice, and they gave you great advice. For me being able to be on here, I'll be able to, you know, give other people a mindset of, hey, this is what a 14-year-old looks like and how he's going playing in goal.
Yeah. Well, and it feeds into the mission of the podcast too, is I want to talk to goalies of all ages and all skill levels, because at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing. You know, and as Kane Van Gate says, all roads lead to the beer league. So we're all going to end up in the same place anyway. So, you know, it's how do we treat that journey, and do we appreciate that journey along the way? I would say that was some of the best advice I got when I was a younger goalie. The goalie coach we had for our association played for the Rochester Americans when I think they were still in the ECHL at the time. And he was moving up the ranks. He could have had a shot at the NHL, but he didn't stretch regularly like he should have. And that wound up to him blowing his knee out. So I learned early on to stretch before I get to the rink, stretch when I get to the rink, stretch when I get on the ice, stretch afterwards. Even at 40 years old, I still stretch all the time. That's why I'm still so flexible. But he also, you know, shared with us, you know, enjoy the game, enjoy the moment, because you don't know when it's going to be taken away from you. You know, for him, it was, he blew his knee out. Up here in Minnesota, everybody knows who Jack Jablonski is, the high school hockey player who, playing in a JV game, got paralyzed, and you know, he's been in a wheelchair ever since. You never know when that last game's going to be, so cherish every single one of them, and realize it is just a game.
Yeah, I definitely had that moment when I broke my back. It's like you come back and you think, you're like, it was that close, one snap of a finger, and it was that close, and I could have been just right out. And then, but like, I'll go to stick and pucks and stuff, and there will be like old guys there or something, or some younger guys.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, what team do you play for or something? And they'll be like, oh, I would have gone to the NHL, but I blew out my knee, rotate my ankle or something. They'll always say something like, that's what I've talked about everybody. Now I say, oh yeah, I blew out my hip or blew out my knee. It's always funny.
Yeah, there's always those guys at those pickup games. Yeah, I could have made the show, I never made my high school team, but I think I could have made the show. Yeah. But when you become that old guy at pickup hockey, you can say, I probably could have made it, but I broke my back. You have that one. And I know for a lot of us older goalies with COVID, rinks were shut down, or when they opened up, it was just, beer league hockey was not an option because all the ice was for the younger kids trying to get their seasons in. So, when we were able to come back to the ice, the game was a little bit different for us. We even were nice to the referees. It was like we appreciated each other again. In fact, my first league game back after COVID was against a team that just had the chippiest player in the league. I remember talking to their captain once. He says, every week the league commissioner calls me and says, what did he do this time, to get kicked out? One of those things. And we were playing that team, and this guy was just skating around with a smile on his ice, helping our guys up off the ice after a whistle and everything else. It's like, man, maybe COVID did him well. He realized that we're all out there just to have fun and love the game. It's not a fight to the death. So you've listened to the podcast. You mentioned some of the guests I've had on. Who's been your favorite guest to listen to? We'll just start there.
Well, there's a bunch of them. I like the dudes with the leather company. I looked at their website. And I saw some of their leather wallets, and I was like, man, these things are cool.
That's my watch band here. It's quality stuff. In fact, I got one of my wallets here made out of some old Brian's
there it is.
Pads, and then I got another one that's made out of the pair of gloves I sent in for him.
Yeah, I've seen those things. I was like, man, these are so cool. And then I liked Ed Belfour, not only just because he's an NHL legend, but being able to hear what he said throughout his career is just it's so inspirational. It's good to hear what somebody who's made it to the NHL before. It reaches out and touches young goalies.
And I think the fun part about that episode with Eddie was that it wasn't just him. It was him and his son, Dane, who, he played junior hockey, played college hockey, and he played pro hockey overseas. So it's like, you had these two guys that have played at high levels, and, just the way that Ed supported Dane along the way was fun too. My kids listened to the episode. My daughter came in laughing about his story about picking up the deer hair falling out in the tree. She's like, did they really put that stuff in pads? And I was like, yeah, they did. That's what my first pair of pads were. It took some convincing to let her know that was real. What have you learned? Have you learned anything listening to the podcast from, some of the other goalies?
Yeah, I've learned a bit, not much though, but the things that I have learned is that how at the end they'll say about their advice towards young goalies, and they just say you have to have fun with it. You have to make sure that, you want to play goalie, and just to have fun along the way, no getting down on yourself. The whole point of it is just to have fun, do something that you love.
Yep. Yeah, because you really can take something seriously and put everything into it, but you still have to have that awareness that, hey, I'm doing this because it's fun. When you start beating yourself up over it and it stops being fun, that's when you have to step back and say, what's going on here. So you listen to the podcast, what's coming up next, the rapid fire questions. So just the fact that you're from Florida, I can only imagine that you've got a crazy coach moment with some, Florida guy.
Oh, I sure do. So I was a peewee at the time. We were down in a tournament in Tampa, and this was on the squirt team. So what happened is our squirt team went down and they scored a goal, and then the guys took the puck out of the net, and the ref never blew the whistle. So they went back down on like, it was like a 3-on-0 or something. They went down and they scored and the ref gave them a goal. So their coach got there and was yelling at the ref, and he just started throwing the clipboards out in the ice, and he was just throwing them at the ref, and he got kicked out. I mean, that was about the craziest thing I've had happen so far.
Oh boy, I can see that happening. There was that video circling social media recently of the goalie. The puck was clearly in the net, but it must have been a one referee deal, and the goalie just kind of pulls it out to the goal line. So when the ref comes up, they're like, "No, it was right here the whole time." And
oh man, that video. That's my brother's team. That's my brother's goalie.
Oh really?
It's a team I would have been able to play for if I made that team down there. They're an older team, but yeah, I saw that video get out, and I was like, wow. I was like, that's my brother's team. That's kind of cool, and that's a good move by him. But I mean, like, he was like struggling to pull it out too. I was like, you got to grab it and quickly pull it out.
You do. I have. I've done that in the beer leagues. That's for sure. So, what is your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh, I really like the Curtis Joseph, the Cujo mask with the dog on it. It's just for back in that time, just the way the mask was painted, the way it was, it's just such a beautiful mask.
Yeah, that dog is, as much as I didn't like Cujo, being an Eddie Belfour fan, that was a beautiful mask.
Mm-hmm. For sure, it was definitely one of a kind of a mask. It was greatly painted.
Yep.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah. So what is your favorite rink that you've played at?
I played at the Amway Center down in Florida, where the Orlando Magic play.
Yep.
So it's where the Solar Bears, the ice hockey team, used to play.
Yep.
Or they still do play there. But
I was just say they're still around.
Yeah, they gave us the ice, and we were supposed to go play out and practice with the Junior Swamp or the Greenville Swamp Rabbits.
Okay.
But they came in late, so we weren't able to practice with them. So we just had the whole ice, and we just played a game out there, and it was being 12 and 11 at the time, and it was such a great experience.
It's kind of fun to skate at a big rink like that, and just look around and imagine what it's like with the seats filled. But the one thing that always strikes me about arenas like that is how hot it is under those lights.
Oh man. Back then, I don't really remember that, but we just had we just played at a rink for our Kaha championship in Wake Forest, and they had this rink, and it was, I'd say, probably one of the worst rinks I've ever played at. They still had like snowflakes up from Christmas decorations, and it was just so hot, like the ice was melting.
Yep.
Underneath us, so we had to stop the game and stuff, and like I was sweating underneath my gear. I let in a couple goals because I couldn't stop sliding around from all the water in my crease. I kept on slipping. Yeah, it was not fun.
So what is your favorite goalie stick that you've used so far?
Definitely the stick I have now, my Bauer 3S Pro. Just being able to use it and stuff. I got it because for playing for two teams and playing against like 18-year-olds shooting on me and stuff, it's held up great through like a lot of games, and it's just so durable. Good puck handling, good shooting with it. The face of the paddle doesn't get cracked like my other stick, and it's just super durable.
Yep, I hear that. So you're going to have to go back into the memory vault here. What is your favorite youth hockey memory?
Ooh, this was actually 2 years ago. We were in Orlando playing a game, and I had just bought a stick from the pro shop, taped it up, and went out there and got the nod for the game. And I got my first shutout ever. I think I recorded like 29 saves, something like that. It was a high number, and I got my first shutout of my goaltending career.
Nice.
It was a great experience. Had my grandparents there. My dad was there. Hadn't seen him in a long time, so it was great.
That's fun. Always fun to have the grandparents at the games too. My grandpa, he was a Dutch immigrant. He didn't really understand the game, but he loved watching it. So it was always fun when he could come out to the game. What is the best chirp you've heard on the ice, in the locker room, directed at you? Best one you've heard.
Oh man, there's a bunch of chirps that I've heard, but we probably shouldn't say the ones that I've heard. There's been a couple good ones, but definitely stuff that should not be talked about. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, especially at your age, there are things said in the locker room and on the ice where if Mom ever heard about it, she'd be horrified.
For sure. Yeah, I'd say if we had police at our game and they heard that, we'd probably have a couple kids locked up. But
yep.
It's
funny. I'm going to have to change up this next question because of your age to what's the worst thing to drink after a game?
Worst thing to drink after a game. Let's see here. Definitely soda. It doesn't taste right. Nothing tastes right after, like soda doesn't taste right after a game. We pranked a teammate one time during a practice. We filled up a water bottle full of vinegar, and he always steals everybody's water. So he took that thing and he just squirted it right in his mouth, instantly spit it out. And that was pretty funny, but definitely soda. It just leaves the dryness in your mouth. It sucks.
Yep. Yeah. I always got the green Gatorade right after practice, and only time I like to drink it is right after practice. That's the only time it like hits the spot. When you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Oh, heel to toe. I'm not a psychopath on that one, going toe to heel.
Yeah.
But I actually have a Tom Barrasso stick right here. Stepdad got it, all the original tape and stuff, and he goes toe to heel.
Yeah.
It's all nice, and lines go straight from here, toe to heel. And I got two of them. One that's actually completely intact, and the other one over here, which has its blade taken off. But yeah, so he went toe to heel. It's weird.
Yeah, that I did not know that about him, and those Cooper sticks were the best. I loved them. What's your favorite number to wear and why?
Well, I've got a bunch of 30 jerseys up here, which is what I used to start wearing because of Henrik Lundqvist. But then my most recent one, the high school jersey, I got number 1 because the senior goalie, he got number 30.
Yep.
Because he's older than me. And I was just like, and I had put down 31. I was like, all right, I want 31. I like number 31. And then they didn't give me the 3. So they just gave me number 1. So I was like, oh man, it was like the last number I wanted.
Yeah.
But then I went out and I had a great season with it, and I just stuck with it.
Do you think you'll change to 30 next year with the senior gone, or are you going to stick with the number 1?
Pretty sure I'm going to end up just sticking with number 1. Good things happen that year, so we're going to stick with it until something bad happens and probably switch something up.
Makes sense. So what advice do you have for young goalies getting into the game?
Goalie's hard. It's not easy, but you have to have fun while doing it. If you're not out there having fun and you're not respecting your gear, respecting your coaches, your teammates, the refs, if you're not having fun with it, then you probably shouldn't be playing goalie. As long as you're having fun, it's always good to play goalie.
And you're right in that it isn't easy, but I think when you're having fun, it becomes easier.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely. When I'm out there playing games and I'm having a lot more fun, I feel like I'm doing a lot better.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't even have to try. It just comes naturally. But when you're not having fun, you're thinking too much about it and whatnot, it's a lot harder.
It just seems like every shot that comes at you, you're always out of position. It always goes in, and then you get even more mad, and the spiral continues.
Absolutely. Well, Shane, I've enjoyed talking to you. I'm happy to have gotten another younger goalie on the podcast. For the reasons you said, I talk to a lot of older goalies, and we're able to impart our wisdom, but it's fun to hear from the younger goalies, especially, with the past season and a half that you guys have had to endure, to understand what it is you guys have gone through. Because us old guys, it's just, all right, we got to drink beer at home instead of at the rink.
Yeah. I enjoyed being on the podcast. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. And, if you need any advice or whatnot going forward, don't hesitate to reach out.
Will do.
All right.
It.
You have a good one. Keep those grades up.
All right. Thank you.
See you, bud. It was fun talking to Shane, a goaltender who followed my plea at the end of every podcast that if you are a goaltender or know one I should talk to reach out to me. I'm glad he did, so that I could get the perspective of a youth hockey goalie on how this pandemic is impacting him and his game. I was also excited to hear how he finds value in all of our guests sharing their advice for other goaltenders. As Yogi Berra once said of a predecessor of his, he taught me his experience. We should all teach each other our experience in the game. You can follow Shane and his hockey journey on Instagram at sphockey30, all one word. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, simply by searching for Washed Up Goalie. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights when I'm able to find a skate during the pandemic, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Tendy Talk or Washed Up Goalie apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show. The BLPA Big Show is a couple of beer league players chatting about beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. The show is hosted by Nick Jones and last week's guest, Trish Dangle, with other co-hosts filling in occasionally. I need to thank the band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream music from. And as I mentioned before, I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media, just like Shane did. Let's not forget, if you are a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.